Here's a room, cold and quiet, somewhere in Cambridge, Massachusetts, in the fall of 2003. A 19-year-old is hunched over his laptop at 2 in the morning, fueled by frustration and cheap beer, building something he thinks is just a joke. He has no idea that within a decade, this small act of late-night coding will reshape how billions of people fall in love, argue with strangers, mourn, celebrate, and see themselves. This is the story of Facebook, and like most stories that end up changing the world, it didn't start with a grand vision. It started with heartbreak, mischief, and a website that got its creator in serious trouble. To understand why this story matters, you have to understand what the world looked like before it. In the early 2000s, the internet was still a scattered place. MySpace was popular but chaotic. Friendster was fading. There was no single place where people used their real names, their real photos, and their real relationships to connect with the people around them. Nobody had built a digital mirror of real life yet. What happened next in a Harvard dorm room would fill that gap so completely that the word Facebook would eventually become a verb. The story begins with Mark Zuckerberg, a computer science student at Harvard University who had already built a reputation for being brilliant, blunt, and a little bit reckless with code. In October 2003, after a breakup, Zuckerberg did something that says a lot about who he was at the time. He hacked into Harvard's student housing databases, pulled photos of students, and created a website called FaceMash. It let people rate the attractiveness of their classmates by comparing two photos side by side. Within hours, so many students were using it that it crashed Harvard's network. The university shut it down almost immediately, and Zuckerberg was hauled in front of the administrative board, facing possible expulsion for breaching security, violating copyrights, and violating individual privacy. He wasn't expelled. But FaceMash left behind something more important than punishment. It proved that people were hungry for a certain kind of digital experience, one built around real identities and real social comparison. Around this same time, Zuckerberg was approached by 3 fellow Harvard students, Divya Narendra and twin brothers Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss, who were building a social network of their own called Harvard Connection, later renamed ConnectU. They asked Zuckerberg to help write the code. He agreed, worked with them for a while, and then, in early 2004, quietly walked away and began building something remarkably similar under his own name. That decision would trigger years of legal battles down the road, but at the time, nobody could have predicted how significant it would become. On February 4, 2004, Zuckerberg launched a website called The Facebook from his Harvard dorm room. He built it with roommates and friends, including Dustin Moskovitz, Chris Hughes, and Andrew McCollum, and it was funded early on by another student, Eduardo Savarin, who put in about $1,000 to keep the servers running. The idea was simple but powerful. Every Harvard student could create a profile, upload a photo, list their interests, and connect with classmates. Within 24 hours, over 1,000 students had signed up. Within a month, more than half of Harvard's undergraduate population was on it. The speed of that growth changed everything. Zuckerberg and his small team realized they weren't just building a fun campus tool. They were building something that could scale. By March 2004, the Facebook expanded to Columbia, Stanford, and Yale. By the end of that year, it had spread to dozens of universities across the country, always following the same model, requiring a valid university email address to join, which made it feel exclusive, safe, and trustworthy in a way other websites didn't. That summer, the company moved its base of operations to Palo Alto, California, right in the heart of Silicon Valley. This is where Sean Parker, the co-founder of Napster, enters the story. Parker met Zuckerberg and became an early advisor, eventually serving as the company's first president. He understood the tech world and its investors in a way the young founders didn't yet, and he pushed them to think bigger. Through Parker's connections, the company caught the attention of Peter Thiel, a co-founder of PayPal, who became the first outside investor, putting in $500,000 in exchange for a stake in the company. It was a bet that looked risky at the time. It would turn out to be one of the most profitable investments in Silicon Valley history. In 2005, the company dropped "the" and became simply Facebook, buying the domain facebook.com for $200,000. The platform kept expanding, adding high school networks, then workplace networks, growing user by user, school by school. But behind the scenes, storm clouds were gathering. The Winklevoss twins and Divya Narendra filed a lawsuit against Zuckerberg, accusing him of stealing their idea. The case would drag on for years, eventually settled in 2008 for a combination of cash and stock. It became one of the most talked about disputes in tech history. Later dramatized in the film The Social Network, though the real story was messier and less cinematic than any movie could capture. The biggest turning point came in September 2006, when Facebook opened its doors to anyone over the age of 13 with a valid email address, not just students. This was the moment Facebook stopped being a college network and started becoming a global platform. That same month, the company launched a feature called News Feed, which automatically showed users updates about their friends' activities. It seems obvious now, almost invisible, but at the time it caused an uproar. Users felt it was an invasion of privacy, and within days, hundreds of thousands of people joined protest groups demanding its removal. Zuckerberg refused to shut it down. Instead, he apologized publicly, added privacy controls, and kept the feature. That decision revealed something important about how Facebook would operate going forward. It would push boundaries, absorb the backlash, adjust just enough to survive, and keep moving forward. Newsfeed eventually became the heart of the entire platform, the very reason people kept coming back day after day. The years that followed were a blur of growth and ambition. In 2007, Microsoft invested $240 million for a small stake in the company, valuing Facebook at $15 billion, an almost unbelievable number for a company that was barely 3 years old. By 2008, Facebook had over 100 million users worldwide. Sheryl Sandberg joined that year as Chief Operating Officer, coming over from Google, and she became the executive who turned Facebook's massive user base into a genuine advertising business, the engine that would fund everything the company became afterward. By 2010, Facebook had crossed 500 million users. In 2012, it went public in one of the most anticipated stock offerings in history, valuing the company at over $100 billion. That same year, Facebook made a move that stunned the tech world, acquiring the photo-sharing app Instagram for $1 billion, when Instagram had only 13 employees and no revenue at all. It looked like an overpayment. It turned out to be one of the smartest acquisitions in the company's history. 2 years later, in 2014, Facebook acquired WhatsApp for $19 billion and also purchased Oculus VR, a virtual reality company, signaling that Zuckerberg was thinking far beyond just a social network. But growth on this scale brought new challenges, ones far more serious than an angry Harvard dean or a lawsuit over stolen code. Facebook faced growing criticism over how it handled user data, culminating in the Cambridge Analytica scandal in 2018, when it was revealed that the personal data of tens of millions of users had been harvested without proper consent and used for political targeting. Zuckerberg was called before Congress to testify, and Facebook's reputation took a hit it has never fully recovered from. Questions about misinformation, election interference, and the platform's effect on mental health followed the company into the next decade, forcing it to invest heavily in content moderation, fact-checking, and user safety in ways nobody imagined would be necessary back in that Harvard dorm room in 2004. In 2021, in a move that surprised many, the company rebranded its parent organization as Meta, signaling a shift toward building the metaverse, a network of virtual spaces where people could work, socialize, and play. It was a bold pivot, an attempt to write the next chapter before the current one had even fully closed. Today, Facebook remains one of the most used platforms on the planet, connecting billions of people across generations, even as newer platforms compete for attention among younger users. Its story is no longer just about a website. It is about how a single idea, built quickly and imperfectly by a group of college students, ended up rewriting the rules of human connection, communication, business, and even politics. It carries both the pride of incredible innovation and the weight of real consequences. A reminder that the tools we build to bring people together can also pull them apart if we are not careful. That is why this story still matters. It is not just the story of a company. It is the story of how the modern world learned to live online, for better and for worse. Starting with one dorm room, one broken heart, and one line of code. If this story taught you something new today, hit like, subscribe for more real stories behind the world's biggest ideas, and let us know in the comments what topic you want us to uncover next.